Wednesdays with Real Talk with Cody and Joe. I am Joe Skipper with eXp Realty. My buddy here, Cody, is with Residential Mortgage. How's it going, Cody?
Going good. How you doing?
Good, good. You have a good Thanksgiving?
It was nice. We
Good.
did have a power outage at about 5 o'clock. So the food was almost ready, and we saw this little like these sparks, and then a transformer looked like it blew, just like quarter of the mile from our house. And we're not like way out there, but we're far enough out there that we thought maybe it was going to be a dark Thanksgiving. So luckily, power came back on about 20 minutes later, and we were good to go. So
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. How about
Overall good
you?
though. Sorry, I have something like hanging in front of my face here, a little
Oh, you're
thread. But good. Yeah, just we just stayed local. Stayed with my went to my sister-in-law's house and had some time with family and did all that and lots of
nice.
football and hanging out. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
ready to get back to it this week.
We had to mix in a birthday too. Our middle son, he turned 6 on Thanksgiving. So
Oh,
we
nice.
had
Oh, yeah,
a
you told me that. You told
kind
me
of a
that.
hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
It's
know
good.
you're not upset about this, but we lost the Civil War and we lost our head coach
I
for
know.
football.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but things are looking up. I think Trent Bray just got announced last night
I
as the
saw
head
that.
coach. So
Yeah.
that I think is a good thing. So,
Yep.
yeah, we have some light out of that out of this
Yeah,
last
I know.
week with
Well,
Oregon
I think
State.
it's good too that they got somebody quickly,
Yeah.
fill the gap and
Yeah.
hopefully just continue to move on. So,
For sure. And someone local that like, has that drive, that power, the local coach power and the recruiting
yeah.
power there and keeping people in on that.
Yeah.
So,
Probably have a
so
better chance
yes,
of keeping players too, hiring
yeah,
from within.
for sure. Maintaining hope.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, well, today we had talked last week, or we had talked midweek last week about getting into house hacking. And so, for
Mhm.
those of you who do not know what house hacking is basically the simplified version, and it really is a simple version of you buy a duplex, buy a fourplex, buy a triplex, and you basically live in one portion of it while you rent out the other two or three units. This can help in so many ways. In the primary way is that someone either pays the majority of your mortgage or all of your mortgage plus a profit, and so on. So I wanted to talk to you about it today because I think with rates how they are now and how high they are now, I think
Mhm.
it's an opportunity for not everyone because I think this is a unique proposition. I think it generally caters to those first time home buyers, those younger kids coming out of college, but even like we've just talked about, my sister potentially getting into something like that. So
Mhm.
it's not unique to the younger generation, but it does require, I think, a little bit more flexibility, which then caters to the younger generation because you have
Mhm.
to live in a place with two to three to four other people, surrounding you. Long
Yeah.
story short, I think it provides an opportunity for home ownership in a time that maybe home ownership can't happen for someone. And like, not to throw my sister under the bus, but she's talking to you about that and
Mhm.
going to talk with you about house hacking. So I wanted to get into it,
Yep.
get your thoughts on it. Um, Basically, that's what it is. What do you think? Have you seen an uptick in house hacking type of mortgage applications? Does it remain steady? Like, what does that look like for you on the lending end?
Yeah, I mean, currently it seems to be the if you can even call it a trend, but more like multi-generational house purchasing, right? So like in the case of a duplex, it's two families essentially that are going in on it together rather than everybody living under the same home. You both get your own unit. But it's definitely become a lot more of a topic just because it's things are expensive and it's expensive to rent and buy. So looking at as opposed to just continuing to rent, buy something that can fit, or maybe it's a two level, with the kind of a mother-in-law suite in the bottom. But getting a duplex, I think, is one of the most. It doesn't have to just be a duplex, but one of the most underrated home investment purchases because of what you're getting. I mean, you're getting two units. You can live in one. You can rent out the other. When you're tired of having a neighbor like that, you can move out and rent out both sides, right? So there's a couple different ways to go about it. And before I jump in too much, I did want to share that Fannie Mae actually just announced, it's been within about a month or so now, where they have allowed up to 4 units as a primary residence, say you were going to buy a fourplex. Prior to, you had to put a much larger down payment. Well, they just changed it to where you can now do 5% down and purchase a fourplex.
Mm,
So that's huge for somebody that's, whether you're looking at as an investor and you're just going to rent out all the units. It has to be a primary residence for that down payment. But as somebody that's looking at getting into investing, I mean, you can purchase 4 units with just 5% down. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But to kind of jump into our topic here, I've worked up a couple different scenarios just to go over as far as examples go, and then just share a few things that I have learned over the years, and my personal life with investments, as well
yeah.
as just different ways to kind of go about it. So um, for starters, I would say the easiest, best way to get into it is purchasing a home as your primary residence, live in it, fix it up, do whatever. Go into it with the mindset of it being an investment property, right? Like you're gonna use it as your primary residence. Ideally, live in it for 2 years. It's your home, it's your place, and then when you're ready to move on and hopefully upgrade, converting that into a rental property. So one of the things that people don't realize is when you do that, getting a primary residence, you're going to get the best interest rate that's available. If you purchase it as an investment property, you're looking at a significantly higher interest rate and a larger down payment. So they're two very separate types of loans. But if you can get into it with hopefully minimal down and a better interest rate, live in it for a couple years, make it how you want it to be, turn it into a rental, then there you go. You've got an investment property right there. Beauty thing about it too is everything about the house. It's not like you're just purchasing an investment property and you don't really know how it all works. You don't know the ins and outs. You've lived in this thing for 2 years. You know exactly what you have done to it. So I think as a new landlord, it's going to give you a lot of peace of mind too, knowing what could go wrong, what you've already fixed. So that's going to be, in my opinion, the best, easiest way to go into it, because it's kind of like you're just dipping your toe in, and when you're ready, okay, we're going to take this jump. Um,
For sure. And that's,
cup,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just saying it's exactly what my nephew did right out of college. He got just super smart with his investment. He didn't have a ton of money, but wanted to have properties, and so he bought a fourplex and lived in one of them, and is now currently renting them all four out and looking for the next one. So
Yeah,
it's a very once you it's an intimidating process to get started. Once you're in, it's a very easy process to kind of leverage that property to move on to the next ones. I think it's a
yeah.
great for first time investors. But go ahead, what were you saying?
Yeah, no, I think that it's a great way to go, 100%.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple different scenarios that I thought I'd throw out there just to give an example that kind of falls in line with what I was just talking about there, right? So, take for example purchasing a duplex for $600,000. Okay, purchasing it as a primary residence, you're going to use an FHA loan. You can use a conventional loan too, but say for this example, an FHA loan. So you can put in 3.5% down. So in that scenario, $21,000 down payment. Total closing costs going to range around $12,000. So all in, you're looking at $33,000 to get into a duplex, right? And you can rent out the other side. And the nice thing about that is you can use, say you don't have somebody ready to rent out the other side. When it comes to qualifying for a mortgage, you can use what's called market rents, which is when the appraiser goes out to look at the property, they're going to do essentially a market analysis for what the rental would be. So say you don't have a lease agreement, but the appraiser comes out and says the average rent for one of these units is $2,000. So we can use that when it comes to qualifying to offset your mortgage, right? So instead of your mortgage payment, your mortgage payment, say $5,000 for that place in this scenario. Well, now we're only having to qualify you for $3,000 a month, which in this market is right about where you're going to be spending, whether you're renting or buying something like that. So you're going to have your normal payment, and then you're going to have somebody else that's renting out the other side, but we're only qualifying you for that $3,000 a month that you're liable for. Or the other option is you get a tenant, you get somebody signed with a lease agreement, and we can go off of that number. So that's going to put you, like I said, $33,000, for this example of what you need to have out of pocket, and then you're going to be liable for your side. Tenant's going to be liable for the other side. Here's what it would look like if you were to purchase that same scenario as a investment property, right? Which is where all the money has to come from. You're going to have to put down, in order for it to really make the most sense for interest rate and everything, 25% down. You can do as little as 15% down on a single unit, but 2-unit, 25% down. Okay, so that's $150,000 down payment.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. Closing costs are going to be a lot more because the interest rate's higher. You got to pay for a lower rate. That's going to cost you about 20 grand. So all in, you're looking at about $170,000. The big difference is your mortgage is a lot lower because you're putting down so much, and you're renting out both sides. So in this example, you're pretty much breaking even in this current environment, right? Say you rent out both sides for $2,000 a month. Your mortgage is right about $4,000. So you're breaking even, but somebody's paying the payments, gaining equity for you. Then when interest rates eventually come down, and that's what we're all hoping for. Then when they do come down, a chance to refinance, save some more money. But it just goes to show you the difference. Like, you're getting the same exact property, and you're putting down, if you do it as a primary residence, you're putting down, a quarter, if not more, than what it would be to purchase it the traditional investment property route. So,
and even with that number you gave, is like you could always negotiate closing costs and things like that to even drop further the cash that you're needing to come to the table. But I wanted to, I don't know if I missed it, but you were saying the numbers. Can you give us numbers for, say, and you may have already done this for living in it and having a renter? What's the numbers for a $600,000, just generic $600,000 duplex? What is your monthly outgo, for a mortgage?
So it's going to be in this, like the first scenario that I gave, say it's the minimum down payment, 3.5%. You're looking at a payment of right around $5,000 a month.
Okay.
That's the total, right? And then you can offset that with the rent, whatever you can rent out the other side for. And you can count that too. Like some programs, the main thing is just you are going to be living in it as a primary residence. That's really the main thing. This is your primary residence, and there's another unit there. Same thing if you were to be, if there was an ADU, so like an additional dwelling unit on the property, that's totally fine to rent it out. You just have to be occupying it as a primary residence, because what they don't want is people skirting around the rules to then purchase all these at the best deal. You do have to live in it. But there's nothing that says you have to live in it forever, right? Life happens, families grow, jobs change, maybe you get transferred, whatever it is, life happens. So not expected to live there forever, but you are expected to live there within 60 days and make it your primary residence.
Is the process the same? Like the application process? Can someone say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing either a duplex or just buying my own place"? Like, is it completely different in your application process, or talking with you, or is it the exact same?
It's really the exact same thing. So one application is really going to cover every different type of financing that you want to do. So once we have everything, we just make the changes internally of, hey, this is what you want to do, or maybe you want to look at 5 different scenarios. I just work up all those 5 scenarios with the same application. So it's, once you're in, you're in. It's just now a matter of figuring out what makes the most sense. And for a lot of stuff too, when it comes to this, especially getting into like becoming a real estate investor, even if you don't feel like that's what you are, like if you're purchasing a home just to live in it, you're investing in real estate, right? So a lot of times you get into it and there's not a lot of money. Not like you have $100,000 just sitting in your bank account burning a hole, right? So it's finding those ways that you can get in excuse me, the cheapest that you can, and then slowly building that equity. And then before you
Yeah.
know it, it starts to snowball, and you're feeling more confident as a landlord now too, because you've got a couple years under your belt, and
Yeah.
now it's exciting, and
I know.
you can know what to look for rather than it's really intimidating.
Yeah, until you see it firsthand, it's hard to put into numbers. People, it's very intimidating to say I'm gonna buy a fourplex or buy a triplex or I
Mm-hmm.
think, but once you get in, and I saw it firsthand with my nephew, is once you take the step and see how easy the process is, um, and how, if you make a good calculated investment, just like anything we do, it gets easier and it gets almost like,
Mm-hmm.
depending on who your personality is, he's like obsessed. They want more
Yeah.
because they see that now they can leverage that property against more properties, and then in turn builds wealth. And not to
Mm-hmm.
plug my YouTube, but this Friday I'm doing a video on that very same thing, is like how to just get in, because I think the basics of it all is very intimidating. People, we live this life, but a lot of people don't, and they're like, I can barely wrap my head around buying one house, let alone
Sure.
saying that I'm going to buy a house and be a landlord and all that stuff. But I think, it's the best way to start yourself off, especially those kids, the younger generation that's like, hey, I can't afford a $500,000 single family home. Well, maybe you
Mm-hmm.
can afford a $600,000 duplex because of the rental income and things like that, and then that puts you in a position in the very near future to be able to leverage that property to get on to the next. So it's a super cool topic. It's a super exciting
Yeah.
topic. I just my hope is that people watching can kind of see that it's not as intimidating or as complicated as it can look on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think all of us look at those long term, those big time investors that are all on social media and doing those sort of things, and they make it look like it's just, so they're in a different category, and it's like they're in the same, they were there years ago, and it's just
Yes.
getting that first step in. And once you get that first step in, it becomes easier and easier and easier to invest more and more. So
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Everybody starts at square one. I mean, unless you were just born into money, and you have that opportunity. But for those of us that start out with bare minimum, it's just slowly compounding that on itself. And
mhm.
one thing that I think can easily get lost too is, we talked about it the other day, building equity, right? Like that's just continues to happen. There's going to be highs and lows in the housing market, but overall, real estate just continues to grow and grow. So you get your first home, you start building equity, you're getting it to where you want it to be, but maybe you don't have enough money to purchase the next property. Well, you have equity in that home. Take out the equity in that one and purchase it for the next one. And so you can start to snowball it with that leveraging of your asset rather than your bank account each time, and depleting everything and starting from scratch. It's just getting that first one going, and then just being able to work off that and build.
For sure. Well,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add for the group?
Um, there. I mean, we could probably do an extended version on this sometime, or maybe another video on just some of the different loan options and opportunities that are there,
Yeah,
for any of those that want to learn more about it. We kind of just did a quick little overview of just one example on how to do it, but there are a lot of other programs out there that are specifically targeted towards investors, that will just qualify you as the buyer on what the rent is,
for
instead
sure.
of your own debt to income, all that stuff. So we can kind of nerd out on some of that stuff later
Yeah,
if anybody wants to. But no, I think it's just understanding it and learning it, and getting familiar and comfortable to where it's not something that you just feel like you're going to jump into it and then, oh no, the market crashes and we lost everything. So
for sure. Yeah, it's
yeah.
uh it's it's an exciting thing, and I know it's kind of nerdy. I was talking to someone the other day, and it's like our area of work is pretty boring, like
Yeah.
overall. Like, and
Yeah.
and so it's like trying to make it, what our like my goal and your goal is to kind of start at the basics and let people kind of ease their way in. So it'll be interesting to
Hmm.
see what you think with my sister, and
Yeah.
see, she I love my sister to death, but she's very low key and very, so it'll be
Uh-huh.
interesting. Maybe we can convince her to get on and
Yeah,
show the process like as she goes through it and
I
see
like
like
it.
go real time. I might actually put my nephew on there too because he's young kid,
Oh, there you
done the
go.
fourplex, looking for the next one. Maybe it'd be fun to have them on and kind of just see to get a
Yeah,
real life example rather than us two talking heads, with our
right.
boring our boring real estate talk.
Yeah, and
Go
I'd be
with someone
happy to
that's like
share.
real life, like
Yeah, I'd be happy to share if we ever wanted to do it too. My wife and I have gone through the purchase it as a primary residence, live in it for a couple years, remodel
yeah,
it, turn it
yep,
into a
same here,
rental. So,
same here, yeah.
yeah,
And it was a natural process for us, but yeah,
yeah,
some people it's really intimidating, so hopefully make it easy for everyone as time goes on. But yeah, now that I
yeah,
think about it, I think it'd be good to have my sister or Evan, my nephew, on there
I
and
think
see,
so.
give their 2 cents rather
We've
than
got our
just
first
us.
guest lined
Like,
up.
yes, for sure. Well, thank you,
Love
man.
it.
Thanks for everything.
Thank
I hope
you.
you have a great week. If you guys need any help with lending, or if you need any have any questions or anything like that, please call Cody. He knows a lot about the issue and is easy to talk to. If you need any help with real estate issues or anything like that, give me a ring and we can talk about that. But until next Wednesday, Cody, have a good week. And
You as well.
yeah, we will chat with you next week.
Let's do it. Sounds
Okay, we'll
good.
see you. See you, man.
All right, we'll see you later.